Hi guys, Brook Potter here. In this video, I'm going to be answering a question that I got in my DMs from somebody who's really been enjoying my work. They've liked my videos. They've liked what I'm doing on the podcast. They've even gone back and watched some of my old Christian ministry videos. So it's a real fan. And they asked me if I had had any formal broadcast, TV, or film training. And I thought to myself, well, yeah, I could fill a 10-minute video to appease the YouTube algorithm gods with that. So I went ahead and decided to do that. Now, a lot of you guys watching my videos are not subscribed. I just ask you, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification button. All of those things help keep my channel active and allow videos to be suggested and appease the algorithm gods. So yeah, if this is something you like, please consider doing that. Now, to answer my friend's DM, directly, no, I have not had any formal training in TV broadcasting or otherwise, although I have had experience in all of those things, not professionally, but on various times. I thought I'd go through a couple of those times in this video. It's an interesting mix of, film, TV, as well as more so radio. But yeah, my first TV appearance happened back in 1992, I believe. Which is a custom in Trinidad and Tobago after you have passed the common entrance exam at primary school, or what I guess would be like junior high for the Americans, I'm not sure. As is customary, we are immediately indoctrinated into environmental propaganda, and we were exposed to the horrors of, at that time, it was the hole in the ozone layer that was going to deplete and kill us all, and we're all going to die of radiation and cancer and all that good stuff. And we did a lot of art projects to raise awareness, and a lot of it contributed of sticking plastic bags on pieces of paper to represent pollution on the beaches, and all that stuff probably ended up in the trash anyway. But somehow one of the local television stations, I believe it might have been Channel 4 that had just come out around that time, caught wind of the story and came and they interviewed the entire class. And on the topic of environmentalism and recycling and all of these different types of things. And I had one shining moment in that interview where I basically said something along the lines of, by reusing recyclable material, we save energy from mining fresh material to make new products, or something like that. I don't fully recall. And the television cameraman focused in on me, and I had my I'm ready for your close-up, Mr. DeVille moment, and I basically thought I was becoming a star. I never saw that broadcast. My family looked out for it. I honestly don't know what happened to it. It was probably cut up and used in a news segment that we missed, but I don't know what became of that footage. But that was basically my first on-television appearance. My first on-radio appearance happened a couple years later. As is a custom, when boys are around 12, we hit this thing called puberty, and my voice got really deep. You might be enjoying the sound of my voice at this very moment. And I had this voice when I was 12, and ironically, I used to get a lot of girls calling me on the phone just to hear me talk because I sounded like a man. I've subsequently met a lot of these girls later on, and we still laugh about that. But nonetheless, we had a family friend come over to visit the house one time who did work in media at the time. And he was just fascinated with some of the conversations that he and I were having, to the point where he invited me onto his evening radio show on a Thursday night on 100.1 FM. Might have been, I think, maybe that, or might be wrong. Might be a different channel. I honestly don't remember the conversation. I don't remember what we discussed. I remember it was early evening, about 7 p.m. They dropped me off. I went there for an hour. Then they picked me up. All of the family and friends were listening in. I had a girlfriend at the time. She listened and she was very impressed with how I was doing and stuff. And that was my first on-air interview. I think I was kind of playing up a contrarian position. There was another lady with us, and I think we were talking about crime in the inner city and stuff like that. And I don't recall exactly, but I was kind of challenging some of the nuances of the idea that, you just need to pump more resources. And I think I talked about fathers and, the need to rebrand the Trinidad meal, something along those lines. So I was definitely giving the woman a run for her money. And yeah, great time. I'd love to find that interview. If somebody's got it out there, it'll probably surface eventually. And that became my first solo interview on radio. And yeah, beyond that, I was involved in a number of projects. Around that time, I was at a Kung Fu school in Trinidad and Tobago, and my Kung Fu instructor, lead instructor, was a gentleman named Jared Joseph. In Trinidad and Tobago, he's known for making these two local Trinidad movies. One was Men of Grey, and the second one was Men of Grey 2. It was later renamed Flight of the Ibis for the American audience. This was a Rick Moxley production, I believe. Now, we didn't work on the films itself, but because I was a student, I basically counted as free labor. But I did work on two of the music videos that came out from the production. One, I think, was Winning Lanes. It had David Rudder, Trisha Lee Kelshaw, and I believe Sean Bartholomew as he was the writer. And the three of them were in it. It was shot in a cathedral in Trinidad and Tobago. And me and the guys basically played dolly grip and light stand and, all of the menial jobs that come out from these different types of things. There was a second music video. I don't remember what it was called. It was kind of a rap video. It was shot in La Perouse Cemetery. And again, me and my friends came out. We did all the grunt work, lighting, and all these different types of things. And I think we did get some minor credits at the end of those music videos. I would love to find those videos. I did a search and I see Rick Moxley actually just has some clips of at least two, but not the rap video. I don't know where that is, but yeah, that footage seems to be lost. Beyond that, later on in life, I was involved in the pickup artist community, and I remember I did a call-in interview on a TV show called Mismatch, put out by Bazia Entertainment in Trinidad and Tobago. And I was commenting on the idea that, you could have these high school sweethearts that love each other, date each other for 10 years, get married and divorce 6 months later. And in fact, I've actually did a video on this very subject. If you want to see that, I'll put the information in the card. You can go and watch that video, not to give too much away. And after the video, after the interview on the phone, which I called into, they actually invited me on the show. And I did a live session. I think it was like half an hour to an hour long. I honestly don't recall how long it was. Live, we got some call-ins, and I was basically giving my advice about we didn't call it intergender dynamics back then, but definitely, the game and the dating dynamics and stuff like that. I remember afterwards they wanted to feature me in a Bazia article, eligible bachelors of Trinidad and Tobago or something along those lines. I don't know where that footage is. I can be sure if ever I run for some political office, all of this stuff is coming out, which is precisely why I will never run for political office, because all of this stuff will come out. I've said way too much controversial shit out there to ever get elected. But yeah, that was also my stint into television. As well as, I did a number of promotions and stuff like that back when I was a Christian minister. I'd be on the radio promoting conferences, usually me and one of the other leaders. We would go on air. We did one for Gary Greenwald. I think we did one for Benny Hinn. A couple other conferences that we went on, and I went on to the Christian radio station in Trinidad to promote that. Ironically, at the time, I was at odds with a number of churches, and I got apparently the phone lines lit up when they heard I was on the radio, and people calling, telling the station to take me off the air and all this kind of thing, which is really funny. Further along in that, I actually eventually ended up on a Sunday morning Christian talk show on, I believe it was 91.1 Talk Radio in Trinidad and Tobago. It was run by a very good friend of mine at the time, Corey. We call him the Prime Minister Joseph. And it started off, he and I would just have these interesting conversations between different tracks and clips. I was always sending him music and preaching and different messages like that. Eventually, another gentleman joined us, Evangelist St. Louis, great guy. And it was the three of us having a conversation every Sunday morning on various topics, mostly about love and relationships and the love of God and all this different kind of stuff. Eventually, Corey moved on to a different media group, and the format of the show changed. There wasn't enough time for the three of us to really have like conversations and stuff, and eventually I just stopped going. But it was a fun time of my life. I really enjoyed my moments hanging out with him. And beyond that, on the subject of film, one of my friends actually from Trinidad and Tobago moved to Miami, Florida in the US. He came back for a summer and we shot an entire movie, not a full length movie. I think it's probably about 40 minutes, called Fading Memories. That footage is, again, I know he still has that footage. Maybe he might put it out on YouTube. That'd be really funny. But yeah, originally I was supposed to star in it, but I got sick halfway through it, so they reshot my scenes with somebody else. And I basically became a director and co-producer on that production. Eventually, he took that back to his film school. He kind of did a part two to it, but it definitely helped his film career moving forward and stuff like that. But yeah, that was my extent of dealing with film and stuff like that. And beyond that, as I say, in the era of podcasting, YouTube, and all these other types of things, it is really the best time to do any kind of entertainment because you don't need the big production companies to raise all this money and all these other things. You can start small, you can do characters on YouTube and other things. And yeah, that's basically where I got a lot of my exposure and a lot of my, I guess, presentation talents. As well as the fact that I was a preacher for a couple of years, itinerant minister. So I learned to talk in front of crowds. I learned to hold conversations. I had people barraging me with questions. You learn to think on your feet pretty quickly. But yeah, that's basically where all of that came from. And yeah, I still enjoy doing it to this day. I'm looking forward to continuing the podcast, the 10K Run podcast with my friend Amos Joe. We meet we talk on Thursdays and Sundays on various topics in the news, just hashing out ideas. And occasionally we have amazing guests and stuff like that. And a lot of these skills have helped me produce the content that many of you have enjoyed. So if you like this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. And, leave a comment below. If anybody has any of these videos or any of these things, please, for the life of me, don't put them out. No. No, by all means, put them out. I would probably have a riot laughing at, some of the old things that I was saying when I was younger. It'd be great for, posterity to see some of these old clips. But yeah, once again, guys, as always, thanks for watching. Take care.